Hello, I am Ruby Falconer. Today's date is June 8th, 2021. This is a Shamanic Egyptian Astrological update and a journey in honor of the upcoming New Moon Solar Eclipse. The New Moon Solar Eclipse takes place on June 10th. As of the time of this recording, the day of this recording, June 8th, we are nearing the end of the tunnel, the end of the portal. We entered this tunnel, this portal, this birth canal, at the lunar eclipse on May 26th. Since that time, we've been passing through a passage that can be thought of as a passage between two phases of experience. The phase of experience that we've just left began on December 14th. December 14th to May 26th represents a fabric of time, a period of time that is in some way woven together. When we entered the portal at the lunar eclipse on May 26th, we were given the opportunity to release anything that we do not want to take with us into the next phase of experience. This passage between the worlds, so to speak, can be thought of as a kind of a birth canal. We're shedding our skin, leaving behind something we want to take with us. And if you didn't listen to my journey honoring this particular process, you can either go back and do that, or you can simply take some time now to think about what it is that you're shedding, what you've been letting go during this period since May 26th. Now, very soon, on June 10th, we're going to exit this portal. We're going to exit into a solar eclipse. This will be an annular eclipse, and it will be visible in some parts of the United States right around sunrise on June 10th, particularly the more northerly parts of the country as well as the eastern parts of the country. It will be a partial eclipse. Even though it's a total annular eclipse, most of us aren't going to be able to see it that way. There will be some opportunity to see it as a partial eclipse in Europe around sunset. It'll be visible in Greenland, in Russia. In Asia, the people there will be able to see it as a total solar eclipse. And an annular eclipse is like a ring of fire. Okay, so it's dark in the middle, and then you can see the sun around the outside. So the idea is that we're going to be stepping out of this portal between the worlds, leaving behind that which we don't want, shedding it, letting it go, and we're going to step into this new phase of experience, which lasts until November 18th, when we have another eclipse series starting. So we have another period of time that is going to be of a whole, of a piece. So we're leaving behind one period of experience, entering another. So this is important. We have these eclipses usually, twice a year, every 6 months or so. And this is an important part of the eclipse passage. They always come in twos, sometimes they come in threes, and it's very important to bring consciousness to what it is that we're leaving behind and what it is that we want to open up to in the next phase of experience, knowing that we don't know what the next 6 months are going to bring. So we are going to do a journey in a little bit. It's going to be a journey with the Sphinx, this particular annular eclipse, solar eclipse. This new moon is at Gemini, 19 degrees 47 minutes. In the Egyptian pantheon, Gemini is allied with the Sphinx, and I'll speak more about that in a while. So we'll do a journey with the Sphinx about exiting into this new phase and grounding it in some way. But I do want to take a little bit of time to share with you what's going on, because this is a very active time astrologically. So if you've been feeling the energies, there's good reason for that. There's a lot going on. So to start with, where we are right now, we have Mercury retrograde. So, Mercury turned retrograde on June 3rd. So we've been passing through this portal, on May 29th. Mercury turned retrograde on May 29th. So we've been passing through much of this portal with Mercury retrograde in Gemini. So, that's a big part of this process as well, is that, when Mercury is retrograde, communications, outward expression doesn't always work the best way that we want it to, but it's a wonderful time to go inward. So having Mercury retrograde, Mercury is Thoth in the Egyptian pantheon, having that going on while we're in the portal is actually a very powerful process to be moving through, to have this going on. Now, just after we exit, the tunnel and come out into this new phase of experience, we are going to almost immediately on the 14th, we're going to be experiencing this second exact square of Saturn and Uranus. And this square between these two is already in effect. If you've listened to me before or read anything that I've been writing, this is the dominating astrological energy for 2021 and for much of 2022 as well. So this square between these two, Saturn, Sobek, the old king, the principle of constriction, and Uranus, the great awakener. This is Wajet, the Cobra Kundalini energy, the Cobra Kundalini goddess. She's life force. So we have the principle of restriction containing and holding life force, which is pressing against and attempting to break out of it, creating this feeling of contractions, basically. We're kind of in this extended period of birth, which is taking place certainly over 2021 and to a great extent 2022 as well. So this energy is very strong and has been intensifying over the last few weeks as these two have become closer and closer to one another, closer to a square. The cycle between Uranus and Saturn is a 45-year cycle. So, every periodically they come into square, opposition, square. And when this happens, it's in a kind of a readjustment of whatever this particular cycle is about. And a square is a struggle. It's a conflict between the energies. So they're kind of fighting with each other in a certain way. Life force wants to break out and be born. And Saturn, Sobek, the old king, that principle of restraint, he's like, not yet, you're not ready. So, he's hanging on for dear life. She's pushing against him, trying to get out. So you get that sense of, contractions, struggle, intensity. If you've been feeling that in your own life, particularly over this last several weeks, it's because these two have been coming closer and closer to this exact square. So here we are, we're in this portal. Mercury's retrograde, time to go inward, and what we're going inward toward is this sense of these contractions. That something wants to be born within all of us, collectively on our world. It's not ready to be born yet, but the energies are building. So that's the process that's going on right now. So that second exact square happens on the 14th. So that's a very powerful thing as well. Now we also have on the 20th, we have the solstice, summer solstice in the northern hemisphere, the winter solstice in the southern hemisphere. And also on that particular day, we're going to have Jupiter, the principle of expansion. This is Horus, the young king, is going to be turning retrograde. Jupiter, Horus is in Pisces. Pisces is allied with Sothis, the Bodhisattva energy that's allied with the blue star Sirius. Has been since May 13th is when Jupiter went into Pisces. This is a temporary sojourn of Jupiter in Pisces. Jupiter is going to be retrograding back out of Pisces on July 28th. But for these 2.5 months, we have a different kind of Jupiterian energy than we've had since the solstice, the last solstice, the solstice in December, when Jupiter was entering into Aquarius. So we've had this more emotional, more sensitive, more compassionate, more in some ways confusing, certainly more spiritual, also more illusory kind of energy, imaginative, being expanded, gentler in ways, and also in some ways also a little bit more less grounded, energy that has been coming in with the young king Horus moving into Pisces. He hasn't gotten far He's on the 2nd degree of Pisces, and he does turn retrograde on the 20th. So we're already having this sense of Jupiter starting to slow down, starting to move into its station. So, whenever the outer planets, and Jupiter is definitely one of the outer planets, whenever they slow to station, their energy definitely intensifies. So this is coming up. Jupiter will turn retrograde on the solstice on the 20th. We also, of course, what the solstice means is that the sun will be moving into the sign Cancer, out of Gemini and into the sign Cancer. So it'll be a different kind of energy than the Gemini energy. And to kind of go back a little bit to the, the new moon chart that's for the new moon that takes place on the 10th, we have a lot of Gemini energy in that chart. We have the sun and the moon, of course, will be in Gemini. It's a new moon in an alignment, a conjunction with Mercury retrograde. So there's a lot of Gemini energy expressing itself. And this Gemini energy will be in a challenging relationship, a square to Neptune, who's Nephthys, keeper of the mysteries behind the veils. And Nephthys has been very prominent throughout this eclipse period. Nephthys was also in relationship to the lunar eclipse energy. The lunar eclipse was forming a T-square with Neptune, Nephthys. And so she's still very prevalent. She's been kind of our guide throughout this time. So again, with Jupiter in Pisces, Nephthys strong. Neptune rules Pisces. There's been a lot of this otherworldly energy coming through as we've been moving through this portal. So it's definitely been an inward kind of time. And that's going to be present as well in the solar eclipse chart as well. We also have Neptune changing direction, which will be on June 25th. Neptune's going to be slowing to station. So pretty much from the time of the solstice, which is on the 20th, and through the 25th, we're going to have Neptune stationary. So, that's going to be a very strong element as well, that when Nephthys is stationary, more of that kind of confusing energy coming through. So things are not what they seem. And that energy, even though we're coming out into the light, it's going to take a little while before we know what this new realm is. It's going to feel in some ways very otherworldly and, very different in some ways from the energies that we've been dealing with over the last couple of years, actually. So different kind of energy is starting to come in. Mercury turns direct on the 22nd. On the 24th, we have our Capricorn full moon. Capricorn, 3 degrees, 28 minutes. We also have Venus moving into an opposition to Pluto right in between those two. And I want to just kind of, make a little side note here on June 5th. So that's, a few days ago, we had Mars in Cancer move into an opposition to Pluto in Capricorn. And then on the 24th, we're going to have Venus moving into an opposition to Pluto. Both of these are kind of echoes of energies that we had throughout the COVID year, because Pluto's on the 26th degree of Capricorn. So when these two, first Venus and then Mars in Cancer, move into an opposition, it's in some ways like an echo of the great shift energies that we had throughout 2020. So I'm only bringing this up because I know, COVID's still in the news for a lot of countries in the world. It's still very prominent. And it's, by no means over. The pandemic's by no means over in a lot of parts of the world. Here in the United States, it's still in the news. It's still, in a sense, kind of like the shadow energy that's, even though things are changing very rapidly here in the United States, the whole thing around the pandemic, vaccinations, all of that is very much still in the public consciousness and in our public discourse in many ways. And, lots of still adjustments and reactions to that entire experience of being in the thick of the pandemic, at least here in the United States. the thick of the pandemic during 2020. So I just wanted to acknowledge that we've still got some echoes going, you know, as long as Pluto remains in this same territory where the Great Shift energy happened, particularly the second half of 2020, we're going to continue to have echoes around pandemic energy, even if it's not front and center for many countries in the world. And I acknowledge fully that there are other countries in the world where it's still very, very prevalent and very much in the forefront of collective consciousness. So the second half of this particular moon phase, as we move from the full moon on the 24th to the next new moon, which is on July 9th, that's the Cancer new moon, it has a lighter energy, not as intense. We do have, with the Capricorn full moon, there is going to be a fixed sign Grand Cross that involves the moon and Mars in a Grand Cross with Saturn and Uranus. And Mars is going to continue to move on in relationship to Saturn and Uranus. We have a kind of a interesting time from July 1st through the 3rd, and then from the 6th to the 8th. From July 1st through the 3rd, we've got Mars opposite Saturn and square Uranus. And then from the 6th through the 8th, we've got Venus opposite Saturn and then square Uranus. So even though the Saturn-Uranus, the second Saturn-Uranus square is exact on the 14th, we continue to get it activated various times. Whenever planets go through fixed signs, they're going to be activating that Saturn-Uranian square, which is why the volatility of this year, the sense of unpredictability, the sense of energy kind of erupting from the deep subconscious, both personally as well as collectively, that's very much at the forefront of our experience. That's going to continue. And those dates, July 1st through the 3rd and also July 6th through the 8th, will have that quality. So that does bring us to the new moon, the Cancer new moon, the end of this particular moon phase. And the main thing I can say about this is while the first half of this moon phase is pretty intense, the second half will be a little lighter and not quite as intense. So I want to come back to where I began, which is to acknowledge that we are coming out of this portal very soon, and we need to do a journey around this because we need to bring some consciousness to coming out of this portal and stepping into the light, so to speak. We've been in the darkness here since May 26th, kind of working our way step by step by step, you know, feeling our way through the tunnel, and now we're ready to emerge. And we want to do that with consciousness and take advantage of the forces that are out there that want to assist us in grounding whatever new energy we're stepping into. And so we are going to use the archetype of the Sphinx, which is associated with the sign Gemini in Shamanic Egyptian Astrology. And I want to acknowledge, first of all, the duality of the sign Gemini. You know, a symbol is, of course, the twins. And the twins in traditional astrology, astronomy, are the two stars, Castor and Pollux. And their story in myth is they had the same mother, human mother, but they had different fathers. Pollux's father was Zeus, so he was a god, and so Pollux would be what would be known as a demigod, and he was immortal, while Castor's father was mortal. So of course Castor was a mortal human being. And these two brothers, even though they had different fathers, they were twins. They loved each other totally. They spent all of their youth and all of their lives together, did everything together, were completely devoted to each other. And time went on and Castor died, and Pollux was heartbroken because of course he couldn't die. And so Zeus took pity on them and put them in the sky as the twin stars Castor and Pollux. What's important about this story symbolically is that these two represent, in a sense, two aspects of humanness, our very human part of ourselves, which is grounded in a physical body, that goes through processes of death and rebirth all the time, and goes through these cycles of transformation and change, and eventually is going to die. Our body's going to die, and whatever aspect of us remains will be gone. Whatever aspects of our personality will be gone. And yet there is something that within us that lives on. And some people call this the spirit. Some people call it the soul. Some people believe in reincarnation, some don't. But this idea that some piece of us lives on and is going to, in some ways, have some other type of experience, this is sort of the Pollux part of ourself. So in that way, we humans are dual. We are both spiritual beings having a human experience. We have both aspects of this. We are animals and we are also humans. And that piece of being also animals and also humans, having these unique and wonderful minds that are not better than, but certainly different than many of the other animals in the world. Primates are very similar to us. Most of the animals, again, I love animals. I by no means consider them to be stupid. In some ways, I think they're smarter than us. But they have a different way of relating to the world. They don't have the cognitive abilities that we have. That's the human uniqueness. But they have, souls and hearts and emotions and feelings. And that's a lot of our animal aspects of self, is that our emotions and feelings, well, our minds are something different. So one of the things that cultures around the world, and particularly Egyptian cultures, would do was they would combine animals, and so they would create sphinxes. And so you would see, one type of animal with a, different kind of a head, and very often this is the way the gods and goddesses were portrayed. For instance, Sekhmet is often shown with the body of a woman and the head of a lion. Thoth, very often shown with the body of a man and the head of an ibis bird that's unique to that part of the world. And so this combination of the animal and the human was quite a common portrayal in Egypt. And this is a sphinx. This energy that takes two very different beings and combines it together. And so the idea of using the Sphinx as a representation of Gemini is that the Sphinx is an earth altar. If you think about the Great Sphinx in Giza, it's currently the body of a lion and the head of a human. I say currently because there's some evidence and many theories that this is not how the Sphinx was originally portrayed, but that's how we experience the Sphinx now if we go to Egypt. And I had the great privilege to do that and to stand between the paws of the Sphinx and feel this ancient and tremendous energy. We are experiencing this hybrid, this energy, and all of these types of structures which are so ancient, and there are many of them on the plain of Giza. It's where the Great Pyramid is. There are several pyramids on the plain of Giza. And of course, throughout Egypt and many parts of the world, there are sacred structures that were built centuries ago. When they were originally built, they were built in alignment with certain star systems. And the stars have moved on. And so these structures are no longer in alignment with those star systems. Now, they're not in alignment anymore. So when you go to these places, if you're sensitive, you can feel the energies. But it's nowhere near what you would have felt if you had been able to travel there back when these structures were originally built. The energies were far more powerful at that time. So they've lost some of their energies. Now, all altars, whether it's an altar that we build in our house, or if it's an altar in a church, or if it's one of these amazing sacred structures that are built by various cultures around the world, they are intended to draw down energy from divine source, pass it through their form, and then disseminate it across the surface of the earth. That's what an altar does. And the thing about Geminis is Geminis are intended to be earth altars. So any of you out there who have Gemini energy in your chart, I hope you're able to understand what I'm talking about when I say this, that you are meant to receive energy, inspiration, intuition, direction, downloads from divine source, pass it through your body in some way, and then disseminate it out through the surface of the earth. That's where the quality of Gemini as a teacher, a writer, a speaker, that's where that comes from, is that ability to receive inspiration, intuition, and then to share it with others, to pass it on. The thing is that sometimes it's kind of hard to match up. I often think of, Geminis, having little antennas out there trying to get those antennas connected up, and sometimes it's hard to connect up and pull the energy down, and so it's just sometimes get static. It's because nothing's quite in alignment in the way that it needs to be. But when we manage, whether we're carrying a cell phone around, we get our cell phone signal, whatever it might be, when we hook in, get that signal, get that download, we have a clarity of understanding, where we can truly take information from divine source, great star nations, however you want to think about it. We can absorb it into our physical form, and we can then disseminate it. We can share it with the others. We can use it as a directing force for ourselves. So what we're going to do today is we're going to imagine that we're coming out of that portal, out of that tunnel, and we are immediately going to find ourselves in the presence of an earth altar, and we're going to use this earth altar as a grounding point to receive a personal download. Each of you will receive a personal download of what it is that you're taking with you into this next phase of experience. Information about where your attention needs to be, where your focus needs to be, what you need to be working with and on. Okay, so let's do it. I want to invite you to get comfortable. Put your feet on the floor. Imagine that you can feel the pull of the earth beneath your feet. If you want to lie down, go ahead and do that. That's fine too. Either way, you're going to feel the pull of the earth. That's gravity. We're going to tune into that. And I'll invite you to close your eyes. Take a couple of nice cleansing breaths. Letting go of distractions. And just keep breathing. Nice, even breaths. Centering, feeling that connection with earth. And I invite you to allow yourself to be in the tunnel. To feel the pressure of it all around you. And to be aware that you are very close to the end. You can see the light at the end of the tunnel. And with each step you are taking, that light is becoming brighter and brighter. It is filling up the entire opening of the tunnel. So with each step you take, you are moving toward the light. And in your mind's eye, reach out, touch the sides of the tunnel, and then look at your hands. Look at your hands against the side of the tunnel. There's enough light now that you can see it. You can see the texture of this tunnel that you have been in for the last 2 weeks. You have shed your skin. You have let go of that which you do not want to take with you in the next phase of your journey. And you are ready now to step out into the light. So you are very close now to the edge of this tunnel. And I invite you just to stand there for a moment and feel this place, this portal, this entryway into something new, a new phase of being that is going to last until November 18th, when we will once again enter the portal between the worlds. So there's a phase of experience from June 10th through November 18th that you are ready now to enter into. So taking a nice deep breath, step out of the tunnel and step into the light. Step fully into the light. And it's bright, it's so bright that it takes a few moments to adjust, to see what you have emerged into. And as you do, you see that standing in front of you is a structure, some type of earth altar that is important. It is a sacred structure of some sort. It might be a pyramid, it might be a sphinx, it might be a place that you've been. Perhaps you've been blessed to journey to one of the many sacred sites that are scattered around the world, whether it's Machu Picchu or the stone circles of England, Avebury, Stonehenge, Callanish. It might be Chaco Canyon here in the United States or some other place. Again, there are so many of these amazing structures. Teotihuacan in Mexico, someplace. But you find it is in front of you. And what's most important about this structure is it is solidly connected to the earth. And energetically, it reaches up into the sky. It is both a receiver of cosmic energy and a transmitter of that energy across the surface of the earth. So I invite you to step forth and use your hands, put your hands on this structure that is in front of you. You are newly emerged from a period of deep transformation and transition. And I invite you now to connect with this earth altar, this symbol of energy, this sphinx-like energy that in some way connects two things that are very different. Earth and sky, human and animal, light and dark, however it appears for you, connect with this energy. I'm going to be quiet for a couple of minutes, 3 minutes, 4 minutes, and I invite you to go on a journey with this earth altar. Receive a direct download from the great star nations, from divine source, into you, information for you about what it is that you're stepping into, what it is that you are meant to do, pay attention to, work with, explore over the next phase of experience. Nice deep breath. Enter into the journey with the great earth altar. Take a nice deep breath. Really pull this energy that you're receiving into your body. And take your hands down, the palms of your hands, and place them on your body where you want to anchor this energy. It might be in your third eye, your forehead, that point just above the eyebrows, in the center of your forehead. It might be your heart, maybe your throat, maybe it's about speaking your truth, maybe your solar plexus, wherever it needs to go. Might be more than one place. Just anchor this energy. Because you are the earth altar. You are the receiver and the transmitter. You're a walking earth altar. So anchor this energy. And within yourself, make a commitment to follow your directions. To put your attention where you've been instructed to put it. Do the work you've been told to do. In whatever way you can, be the change you came here to be. So take a nice deep breath. Come slowly back into the room. Thank you. We will meet again.